Picture this. It is a Friday night in October, 1985. The automatic sliding doors of the North Court entrance part with a mechanical hum, and you are instantly hit with a wall of climate-controlled air. It's exactly 72 degrees, regardless of the rain falling in the parking lot outside. The air smells like a chemically perfect blend of chlorine from the central fountain, hot cinnamon sugar, and the faint ozone tang of hairspray. You are 15 years old, you have a crisp $10 bill in the pocket of your acid-wash jeans, and the world outside simply ceases to exist. This wasn't just a building, it was a fortress of commerce, a sealed biosphere designed to separate you from your worries, the weather, and the concept of time itself. For 3 generations of Americans, the mall wasn't just a place to buy trousers or a toaster, it was the undisputed town square of the late 20th century. But for the teenagers leaning against the railing of the second floor, looking down at the crowds below, it wasn't a vintage aesthetic or a retro vibe. It was their real, complicated, glorious daily life. To understand the grip the American mall held on the national psyche, you have to understand the sensory overload of walking the main street under the skylights. In the mid-80s, the mall was designed to be a cathedral of consumption. The floors were terrazzo tiles, polished to a mirror shine that squeaked under the rubber soles of high-top Reeboks. The lighting was a mix of natural sun filtering through geometric glass ceilings and the warm, incandescent glow of storefronts, creating a permanent golden hour. You'd start your lap at the anchor stores. Maybe it was a Sears or a J.C. Penney, massive department stores that smelled of perfume samples and new carpet. But the real action was in the corridors between them. This was the era of the mall rat, a term thrown around by adults with disdain, but worn by the youth as a badge of honor. Being a mall rat meant you had nowhere to be and everywhere to go. It was a physical social network, long before the internet existed. If you wanted to know who was dating whom, or who had broken up, you didn't check a status update. You walked to the food court. The food court was the beating heart of the ecosystem. It was a cacophony of plastic trays hitting laminate tables and the roar of 100 simultaneous conversations. The air here was thick with the scent of fryer grease and pepperoni. You might grab a slice of pizza for $1.50, or maybe a massive frothy drink from the Orange Julius stand, a status symbol in a wax cup. This was the tribal meeting ground. The jocks claimed the tables near the windows, the preppies held the center, and the misfits, the punks, and the metalheads colonized the edges, usually near the smoking section, where the air was blue with the haze of Marlboro lights. But the mall was more than just loitering. It was about the tactile experience of the hunt. In 1985, you couldn't stream a song or download a game. You had to physically acquire it. Walking into Sam Goody or Tower Records was a religious experience. You can almost feel the snap of the plastic distinct dividers as you flip through rows of vinyl records or the new long box CDs that retailed for a steep $15, a fortune for a kid on an allowance. You judged albums by their cover art, holding the physical object in your hands, debating whether the music inside was worth your lawn mowing money. Further down the corridor, the bright primary-colored chaos of KB Toys beckoned. It was a dense, narrow store, usually piled high to the ceiling with boxes. Electronic barking dogs, remote-controlled cars, and action figures were jammed into every available inch. In contrast, Radio Shack offered a different kind of allure. It smelled of soldering irons and static. It was the domain of the hobbyist, a place where you could buy a single battery, a frantic tangle of cables, or the latest Tandy computer. These stores weren't just retailers. They were cultural libraries where you learned what was cool, what was new, and what you couldn't afford. The atmosphere shifted as you approached the arcade. You could hear it before you saw it, a digital symphony of bleeps, bloops, and synthesized explosions. Aladdin's castle, or the gold mine, was usually tucked away in a darker corner of the mall. Inside, it was a cavern of neon and shadow. The air was hotter here, smelling of teen sweat and overheated electronics. You lined up your quarters on the glass screen of the Galaga or Street Fighter cabinet to mark your turn. This was the only place where a kid with a pocket full of tokens could be a king. It is easy to look back now with rose-tinted glasses, but the mall served a genuine civic function. In the sprawling suburbs of America, where houses were miles apart and sidewalks were non-existent, the mall was the only place where community happened. It was safe, it was clean. Parents felt comfortable dropping their kids off at the cinema entrance to catch Back to the Future for $3.50, knowing they were contained within the safety of the atrium. As the evening wore on, the security guards, often older men with heavy key rings, would start their slow patrols, eyeing the groups of teenagers loitering by the fountains. The fountains themselves were often elaborate, sometimes spanning 2 stories, the water heavily chlorinated and filled with copper pennies, each one representing a wish tossed in by a passerby. By the time the metal gates started to roll down at 9 p.m., creating a rhythmic clatter that echoed down the long halls, you felt a strange sense of reluctance to leave. The mall was a bright, perfect world where the weather was always mild, the music was always playing, and you were never truly alone. Walking out through those sliding doors into the humid night air, or the biting cold of the parking lot, felt like waking up from a vivid dream. The neon signs of the exterior, red script buzzing against the night sky, promised that the magic would be there again tomorrow, and for a long time, we believed it would last forever. Picture this. It is a Tuesday afternoon in 2025. The automatic doors still slide open, but the mechanism grinds slightly, a sound that echoes too loudly in the cavernous entry hall. The wall of climate-controlled air is still there, but it feels different now. Stale, recycled, lacking the underlying sweetness of caramel corn and perfume. The terrazzo tiles are still polished, but they reflect a ceiling grid dotted with burnt-out bulbs that no one has the budget to replace. You're standing in the exact same spot where the Christmas tree used to touch the skylights, but now, the silence is so heavy, it feels like a physical weight on your chest. This is the era of the dead mall, or perhaps more unsettlingly, the zombie mall, a space that is technically open for business but spiritually deceased. If the 1980s mall was a cathedral, the modern mall is a mausoleum. A massive concrete relic preserving the memory of a civilization that simply moved on. The decline didn't happen overnight. It was a slow, agonizing erosion that began in the mid-2000s and accelerated violently through the 2000s. It started with the for lease signs appearing like pockmarks on the directory map. At first, it was just the niche stores, the candle shops and the quirky gadget kiosks, but then the rot spread to the organs. The mighty anchor stores, the Sears and the Macy's that once defined the American skyline, began to shudder. Walking past a closed anchor store today is a surreal experience. The massive metal gates are pulled down, locked with heavy padlocks. Through the cracks, you can peer into the dark abyss of a former department store. You see the skeletal remains of clothing racks, the dust motes dancing in the slivers of light, and the faded clearance banners hanging like surrender flags. These spaces, once the engines of the local economy, are now vast, dark caverns accumulating dust. The sensory landscape has shifted entirely. The roar of the crowd has been replaced by the hum of the HVAC system and the squeak of a lone security guard's shoes. No longer chasing teenagers, but simply walking to stay awake. The fountains, once shimmering with chlorinated blue water and copper wishes, are often drained dry. Their basins are dusty, revealing the ugly concrete plumbing beneath, turning a symbol of abundance into a monument to drought. The town square has fragmented. The teenagers are gone. They didn't just find a new place to hang out, they migrated to a digital one. The social hierarchy that played out near the food court has moved to Instagram and TikTok. The arcade, once a deafening hive of activity, has been replaced by the silent isolation of mobile gaming in a bedroom. The need to physically congregate to see what was cool evaporated when cool became a feed on a glowing screen in your pocket. In the corridors where KB Toys and Radio Shack once stood, you now find a bizarre, disjointed collection of tenants that signal the end of the life cycle. There are no longer unified storefronts of high-end retail. Instead, you find a storefront converted into a tax preparation office, a jagged interruption in the retail fantasy. You see a Spirit Halloween temporarily occupying the corpse of a circuit city. You might find a non-denominational church that has set up folding chairs in what used to be a generic clothing retailer, or a sparse carpeted room filled with nothing but massage chairs and a vending machine. The food court, if it survives, is a shadow of its former glory. The orange Julius is long gone. Half the bays are dark, their illuminated menu boards removed, leaving behind greasy outlines on the wall where the signs used to hang. The remaining vendors are often local operations struggling to break even, serving food to the handful of mall walkers, senior citizens who use the empty, climate-controlled miles for exercise in the early morning. This transformation has birthed a new aesthetic phenomenon, the liminal space. Millions of people now watch videos of dead malls online, fascinated by the eerie familiarity of the architecture. We see the pink and teal geometric patterns of the 90s carpet, the neon palm trees, and the glass elevators, and we feel a profound, inexplicable sadness. It's not just about the stores closing, it's the realization that the architecture was designed for crowds. Without the people, the proportions feel wrong. The hallways are too wide, the ceilings are too high. The building feels like a stage set after the actors have gone home and the audience has left, but the house lights haven't been turned off. The tragedy of the modern mall isn't economic, it's social. When we stopped going to the mall, we didn't just stop buying jeans in person, we stopped bumping into our neighbors. We traded the friction of the physical world for the seamless convenience of the Buy Now button. The blue Amazon van that pulls up to your driveway offers incredible efficiency, but it offers zero connection. You don't have to get dressed, you don't have to negotiate a parking spot, and you don't have to talk to a cashier. But you also don't hear the music, you don't smell the pretzels, and you don't see your community. As you walk back towards the exit in 2025, passing a storefront that is entirely covered in drywall, painted a neutral beige to hide the emptiness behind it, the silence is deafening. The neon open sign on the pretzels stand flickers, buzzing with a dying agitation. The mall is still here, a massive footprint of steel and glass, but the heart that beat within it, the chaotic, loud, messy convergence of American life, has stopped. The death of the American Mall is more than a shift in real estate. It is the closing of a chapter on tangible community. We have traded the erratic, sensory-rich experience of the town square for the curated, solitary efficiency of the algorithm. We gained the ability to summon the world to our doorstep with a single click, but we lost the shared spaces where we learned how to be people among other people. The neon lights have dimmed, and the fountains have run dry. All that remains are the echoes of a time when we were together, simply for the sake of being together.